Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, presenting another in our line of easy try hack me runes. This one is called Simple CTF. It is a beginner level CTF. And alongside that, I'm going to play around with a new Notion template that I got from somewhere, and I'll figure out where and put a link in the description of the video. It's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward template. I left some of the default information in because it'll be useful to help fill it out. But I've done the basics of it. Looking through our questions is how I pulled out the goal. So we need to see how many services are running under port 1000, what's running on the higher port, whether those ports or not, I don't know. CV to use against the application, what the vulnerability is, what the password is. So I guess we're going to be doing something to brute force a password. Where can you log in? And then we get the user flag, and then on the box. And after that, we'll be looking to Prevesk to root. So on our Notion template, as our goal, we've got obtain remote access as user, and then obtain root access. Template has sections for the machine, for the attacks and the payloads, any credentials that you find, and then just a sort of general journal entry for how you go. So we'll have a play about with that as we work through the room. So as is standard operating procedure, VPN's on, machine's on, and I've added the IP to a variable called IP, and we will do our mmap scan, which I really should alias this command because I pretty much always run the same one every time. But we're running mmap with verbosity. Without pinging, we will do version enumeration. We'll run safe scripts, all ports except port 0, all format to a directory that I haven't created. So we'll just dump that to a file called initial, and that'll get us mmap, gnmap, and xml formats. What else do we want to do? We want to do it fast. We want to know why things are open and why nmap thinks they are. Fire it against our IP. And then we'll let that run for a few minutes. So in terms of our Notion template, so far, open ports we can see are 80 and 21. So let's put those in. Now with the CTFs, sometimes you can mentally cheat a little bit by the format of the answers. So we can tell we're going to have somewhere between 0 and 9 ports open, and judging from the way the scan is going, it's probably just going to be those two, and maybe a couple above 1,000. There must be at least one above 1,000, otherwise they probably wouldn't ask. That seems to be running a bit slower than expected today. But while we are waiting, let's fire up Firefox and burp. Get those ready. Grab our IP address again. Okay, so just those ports under 1,000. And what is running on the higher port? Don't know yet. HTTP is running on the high port, so that's just a Apache 2 landing page. We'll have a look at the page source of that on the off chance that some kind person has left some comments in here for us, which they haven't. That looks pretty standard default page for Apache to me. Let's go at another port there, which nmap will eventually tell us what it is, and assuming that is the only higher port, that should let us answer this question here. And we know we're looking for a CVE to use against the application, so I'm guessing that means we're going to have a web application somewhere in here, which probably means grabbing that again, doing that again, and we'll run Ferox Buster. Word lists. I quite like big derb. I also like the directory list 203 medium. We'll go with that, and then we'll come back to big if we need to. No, we won't actually. We'll just go straight to big. Big or common. We'll go big. There we go. We'll just use a random user agent. We'll dump that out to Ferox initial. We'll use some speed, but not heaps. We'll look for PHP and script files and text files. What else will we do? That's probably all. And we'll let those scans run while we drink some coffee, and we will come back in a minute when we have some results. Nothing particularly exciting so far. if we just ping our machine, see if we can get any data returned from ping. So I'm looking at our Notion template under the machines. So we've got the name of the machine, we've got the IP of the machine, we've got whether or not we've found it yet. Is it in a domain? Does it have AV? Does it have firewall? Operating system? Potential attack vectors. But one thing you can tell often from the ping response is what the operating system is likely to be from the TTL. So we've got a TTL of 61. It'll do some weird internet query. Here we go. So you can identify the operating system, which is pretty cool, actually. So we're probably dealing with some variant of Linux based on the response. So our initial TTL is probably going to have been 64. So it'll be some variant of Linux, which of course includes the other ones that are listed there. But if it was a Windows machine, we would have got a TTL of probably 128 to start. That scan should be done soon. So far in Barracks, we've got not much. Mmap will be done soon, I'm sure. While we're waiting for that though, we can probably go back and chuck our other port in there, which was port 2222, and we can probably do a banner grab on that and see what the port is. It's running SSH. Cool. So that will let us answer question SSH. So we're confirming that out of there. So SSH is what we're going to answer here. What's the CVE you're using against the application? So this SSH version is 7.2.2, which means we're probably not looking at this as the application that we're going to be throwing anything against. Same with the FTP, focusing on our web app to find the answer to our next question, and then our initial access on our timeline on here. Not going to bother with the timestamp itself, although ordinarily on an actual test I would. So we will go mmap scan completed against host 21, running FTP 80, running HTTP Apache 2, running SSH. Potential attack vectors. If we have a look at our nmap result, we can see that anonymous access was available on FTP. We can have a look and see what we can get there. We are running a directory force there, so we'll have a look at that, and probably nothing with SSH, so we won't bother filling that in. Operating system we know that's Linux, and based on what we saw in OpenSSH and HTTP, we're pretty sure that is some variant of Ubuntu. We'll go back here, let's have a look through this. We'll go and have a look at this FTP, because we know we've got anonymous access, so we'll go and have a look at there. In our HTTP findings, there's a robots file, so we'll go and manually have a look at that. And then we've got SSH, so let's just dip over here and have a look at robots.txt. So what are we disallowing? We are disallowing everything, so don't crawl at all, and specifically don't crawl this. So let's go and crawl that and see what it is. It's nothing. So maybe we have to find something else first before we can find that. Can we answer a question? No. Let's just check on our Ferox findings. So what do we got? So we got robots, that picks up robots. We got simple admin, we got simple assets. So let's have a look at simple. It is a page for a CMS called CMS Made Simple. Lots of things to look at there. What else did we have? We got simple admin, simple assets. Let's have a look at simple assets then. What can we see in here? Config files, which we can't see. Not something we can browse the directories of in any case. That might be something to look at later. Assets, configs, plugins, nothing's come out of that. Okay, so we've got some directory listings. Let's see, assets. Oh yeah, we could list assets. We couldn't list anything underneath assets. That's cool. That's a start. Before we get too far in that, because I think that'll be our vector. Let's have a look at FTP. I know we've got anonymous access here. Let's see what we got. We have a pub directory and not much else. We have a note called for Mitch.text. So let's grab that. Let's see if we have write access to here. We don't. So just getting our note is probably enough. So let's have a look at what our note says. Our note says, damn it man, you're the worst dev I've seen. Set the same pass for the system user and the password is so weak, I cracked it in seconds. Gosh, what a mess. That's promising. And also, yes, we have a username now. So we'll go and chuck that in our template. And we'll make a note here. And that note will be the contents of the note that we found. Any questions? So what's the CVE using as the application? Okay, so I think our application that we're looking at then is going to be Simple CMS, and there was an admin page, right, which is a login page, for which we've probably got a user account now, so that's going to come in handy at some stage. So let's have a look at search exploit and see if we can find anything for CMS made simple, or heaps of stuff. Many versions. This cross-site scripting. Let's see if we can figure out a version. Let's check the page source here. Simple admin made simple, blah blah blah. Might as well see what we can see out of some of these things. There's a logo. 111, that's a template dummy HTML file. Also a dummy HTML file. There's similar, lots of these template files on CMSs are, you find the occasional one on WordPress that's kind of exploitable, but we got not much interesting there. That's our main login page and our template and blah 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 blah. Actually, let's just go back to this page. Sing out if you can spot a version anywhere there. We'll look at the page source and see if that gives us a version. It does, there we go. Searching the contents of our page, we can see we have version 2.2.8. Let's come back to search exploit and let's look for 2.2.8, and we have SQL injection, which is promising. So let's have a look at this one for 6635. So it's a Python file. Actually, what kind of vulnerability is going to be SQLI? And the hint says we can use that to crack the password. Okay, so let's have a look at what this Python file actually does then. And then we'll see what we can do. So it's an unauthenticated SQL injection, which is exactly what we want on less than 2.2.9, and we have 2.2.8. There's the CVE that we're looking to exploit. So that means we can probably answer that question. And let's go and actually see what that is on exploit DB, which we know because it's in search exploit. This is someone else's version that runs on Python 3. This is the NIST advisory with the news module through a crafted URL to achieve unauthenticated blind time-based SQL. If we go back to our template, we have blind SQLI on news. So hopefully this script actually works. Let's just make a note in here of the CVE number. And then we'll see if we can find any more information other than reading the comments in these. Somewhere we should probably find the actual disclosure details. This might have some interesting information in it. No, probably not actually. Maybe. Issue was discovered. It's possible with a news module through a crafted URL to achieve unauthenticated blind time-based SQL. So we'll have a look at those. That's probably announcing the fix. There we go. Default action was fixed. That's the primary critical reason for the release. Okay, so that is definitely our way in. So let's go and have a look at what it actually does. Python imports, hash library, so I guess it's going to be Kraken passwords, or it's got to hash the passwords, so maybe we'd specify URL target. These print functions look like they're early versions of Python, so we may or may not have some trouble getting this to run, and we may or may not have to make some changes, which is unfortunate because I'm pretty average at Python. But let's just run through this all anyway. So that's just telling us how to use it, and then it's throwing that at the vulnerability. Where's the options URL? Okay, so you specify that stuff. So where were we? Back here. This will be the word list that we want to pass into this section. Goes to the news. That's our news module. Cool. So this is where our SQLI is going to be. So not on that search directory, but in this news one. Dictionary. Request a session to there. Sets a time. And we know this is a blind SQLI, which means it's basically time-based. So what it does is, I guess it's trying to crack, if it's trying to crack passwords, it'll do this, the script will loop through, it'll do this kind of one character at a time and wait for a response from the server. And based on the length of time it takes for the server to respond, it'll be able to get information about whether something's successful or not and actually step through. And I'm guessing then, because they recommend a word list, which based on the name probably doesn't contain many, that means it's gonna take a long time to run probably. So there's a function for cracking the password, which does what? Reads the lines, tries the lines. Salts does some stuff. So that payload, and then it will dump the password. So this is our password and our temp password, which we can see those variable names used in here. That's cool. It's trying to pull information from the CMS users _users database, which is also pretty cool. Dumps a username. So we'll be trying this with Mitch, or maybe it just uses any username. Was there a username? No. So maybe it just gets the username for us, which will be quite handy, I suppose. Dumping email addresses, dumping the user. Yeah, so dump the username, dumps the email address, dumps the password, and it dumps the salt. And then it tries to crack the password if that works, and then it prints it out. Okay, so I don't see anything. It's not trying to run shellcode or anything like that. Everything looks like it's being thrown at the server, so this is probably quite safe. So let's mirror that here, and then I guess we can try and run it against simple. Yeah, okay. Well, let's see if we can get that to run with the earlier version of Python. Let's actually use the switches that they say. So -u. We want to crack that, and we want to use users share seg lists, I think was what they recommended. Seg lists, passwords, common credentials, best 110, and let's give that a go. So that did take quite a while, but it looks like it was successful. So we got the salt, we got the username, we got the email address, that's the password that it found, and that is the password in clear text that it cracked. Now if we come back here, what is the password? The password is secret. And where can we log in? There's a couple of places we could try. Okay, so it's not FTP 2222 was the port, I think, from memory. Yeah, 2222. Just taking forever. And it will take forever because we're not doing it right. There we go. Secret. Cool. Now we can have a look around. Which actually doesn't have a default shell set. So what can we answer now? We've got the password. We can log in to SSH and we should be able to get the user's flag. And in fact we can. Oops, wrong one. Let's go and add some information to our notes. So we've got the password for Mitch, which is secret. Yes, and we can log into CMS and SSH as that user. And we can, so we know that Mitch must be in this database with that password. But just to confirm, Mitch can actually log in to the CMS that way, and there's probably something we could do to get access, but because he reused his password, we don't need to. We are straight in. So what now? Is there another user in the home directory? So let's have a look in the home directory, and there's another user, Sunbath, and let's have a look at the password. Sunbath there. Okay, we can't write to the password file, can't read or write to the shadow file, and then we'll start doing our previous on Mitch, and we will have a look as a first step at what Mitch can run as sudo, if anything, and Mitch can run vim as sudo. Vim has a nice way, so I've come across this before. If you've got sudo privileges with vim, you can get yourself straight out to a shell, basically doing that. So that's going to be our escalation path. We've got the user Sunbath. We can use vim to spawn a privileged shell, which we will do right now. So user bin vim. Could have done this in one command, but you know, out to bin bash, and we are root. And now if we wanted to, we could set up persistence and whatnot, but let's just grab that root text file and then get our root flag, and there we go. Room done. See you next time.